Hello and welcome to Between the Bars, a brand new podcast where we will be talking all things music. We will have band interviews, new release playbacks, and sometimes it will just be a good old natter about our favourite tunes. I also host a radio show broadcasting out of Perth, Western Australia, every Sunday at 9:30pm. I would love it if you could hit the old follow button at the top of the page, or you can follow me on Instagram at the Mixtape Perth. On this episode, ahead of their Australian tour, I'm absolutely delighted to say I'm talking to Rick McMurray from Ash. Welcome, Rick, and thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm good. I'm here in sunny Edinburgh. A little bit frosty outside, but yeah, a bit of sunshine going on. So maybe a taster of what we'll get when we get to Perth in a few weeks.
Actually, March is probably the best month of the year to come, Rick. I'll be honest. February's a scorcher, but March is the first month of spring, and it's normally a pretty nice time of year to be in Perth. Speaking of which, you are touring Teenage Wildlife, your best of compilation. You're playing in Brisbane, Sydney, Adelaide, Melbourne, and Perth on the 28th of March at the Rosemount Hotel. Just wanted to ask you, Rick, before we sort of get into the detail of the tour and your new album and stuff like that, I wanted to take it back to the beginning a little bit, mate, and just talk about the early days. You were really, really young when you sort of broke through with your debut album, 1977. Just talk to me a little bit about what that was like.
Yeah, it was a pretty wild couple of years. Like even like before 1977 come out, we finished school. Like Tim and Mark finished school the summer of 1995. I think it was like a few days after Tim's first A level exam, which is a kind of
Right, okay.
leaving exam for Australian listeners. He was playing at Glastonbury Festival, and then a few weeks after that, "Girl from Mars," which was our first like proper charting single that went in like into the top 20, and that was a song that kind of took us around the world. So we touring the world. We went to like Japan, Australia, touring, doing bus tours and festivals throughout Europe, and going to America for the first time. And then we went in to record the debut album. So it's like it was a wild couple of years. But yeah, it was kind of like this. The start of it was like kind of real fun, like going around the first time, and then I think it was like sort of as we're coming to the end of the recording the album, was like pressure started building in the studio. And then,
Sure.
the album exploded, went to number one. And we were kind of like, oh, great, we've made it. We've got number one album. We can relax now. Whereas it turns out that was when, like, all the pressure kind of started with like doing interviews like every day and just like being it. Like, we just weren't prepared for how in demand we would be. So it was like, it turned into like a very intense year of touring, year and a half of touring that after that. So, yeah, that was we kind of got a bit burned out by it, but it was like still wouldn't change it for the world.
When you were in the studio recording 1977, Rick, did you have any idea like what a significant album it was going to be for the band and your career?
I mean, sort of like there's no kind of like yes or no answer to that, because in a way, like everything we've been releasing up to 1977, we just kept it felt like it just kept getting sort of bigger and bigger. It was like with like our debut stuff, we were getting like number ones in the indie chart with our like first releases, and then we were getting into the real chart with like the proper pop charts and top of the pops with like "Girl from Mars" and "Angel Interceptor." Goldfinger went like top five, so the album was next, and we were sort of like, it kind of felt like we could do no wrong at that stage, and everything was sort of building, but it was still just a massive shock with the album going to number one. And I think we'd asked the record company not to tell us any midweeks as well. I was usually get a sneak peek of where you might be, and obviously the first midweek was number one. We'd no idea, so it was like we only found out on the day
Oh,
it happened that it had gone to number one. So it was an absolute wild ride. I mean, we always wanted to be in a band, but we were like, we grew up being like metal kids and then having getting into the alternative scene. So it's like, well, for me personally anyway, like the chart thing wasn't like a big reason to be doing it. It was just like kind of like felt like we'd be this underground band. But when things started exploding, it just kind of took on a life of its own. I mean, not to say that I didn't want the number one. It was like when it went there, it was like amazing.
You followed up 1977 with a standalone single, A Life Less Ordinary. And was that a song that you sort of wrote on tour? Did you get a lot of time while you're on tour? Sit down and write new material?
I think it was kind of written for the movie. I think once we'd released 1977, the touring schedule just didn't have any sort of time in it for any writing to happen. So it was like the first thing that we'd written was like a year and a half after that. But I think the realization that Danny Boyle, director of Train Spotting, it's one of the biggest films of that of the sort of like mid to late 90s, was just like, that was like such a boost that he was into us and we were asked to do it. So, but I think that's kind of also where the first cracks started showing, because Tim had written the song, was like, okay, this is great, and then he'd go away for a day, come back and be like, can we change these chords? I'm just not happy with these, and just kept on sort of like almost not believing that it was good enough, when it
Overthinking a
turns out
little
it's
bit.
like, yeah, just like, yeah, completely overthinking it. So that kind of led up to the next album. Of course, we Charlotte joined the band on Life Less Ordinary. That was her kind of introduction to it. So it was a pretty wild time.
I wanted to ask you about the video for A Life Less Ordinary, Rick, and in particular your involvement in it. And for anyone who hasn't seen the video, it features all four band members sitting on top of these four racing cars, racing around this kind of sort of dirt racetrack. And you can see Charlotte and Tim and Mark, and they're all up there throwing all the rock star shapes. But the drummer, he's just sitting there, he's got his head down. I think he's got his hood up and looking down at his snare drum. Was that you, Rick, or was that a stunt double? What's the story there, mate?
The story was, we got to the video set and we did like one or two run throughs, and then I was having like a massive asthma attack. Um,
Right. Okay.
probably not helped by a lot of partying, and I ended up in hospital. So someone from the video crew actually sat in, so that's why the hood's up. And there's maybe like one or two shots of my face from the first take in it, and that's it. The rest is someone else.
Right. Right. I see. Thanks so much for clearing that up, Rick. I've wondered about that. That's bugged me for years. That I wanted to ask you a little bit as well about your fourth album, Meltdown. That was recorded in Los Angeles. What was the sort of thinking behind that, mate?
Well, I think we'd on the previous album, Free All Angels, we'd spent a long time. We spent almost a year touring America off the back of that, and I think just like that kind of like relentless touring we did in that really kind of like sharpened us up as a live band. So, and I think like after that tour, like the stuff that Tim was coming up with was very very rock. It was probably the most rock stuff. So we were like, well, let's play in that. Let's go to LA, record at Sound City where Nirvana did Nevermind, who were like huge heroes of ours. And we went there and made a big rock record.
So, did you get to hang out with plenty of celebrities while you were in LA, Rick?
A little bit. It was the record was produced by Nick Raskulinecz, who'd done the previous Foo Fighters record, and the Foo Fighters had just finished touring their previous album as well. So
Sure.
Dave Grohl was Dave. He's apparently he's not very good at like kind of not doing anything. So he came down to the studio like multiple times, hanging out and stuff. So that was amazing.
Wow.
Hanging out with him. He was playing my drum kit in the room where he'd recorded Nevermind. It was just the most insane thing ever. Tim Burgess, I think, was living in LA at the time as well, from the Charlatans, and we sort of like, he hung out in the same bar that we were going to as well. So
So you're on tour at the moment, Rick, in Australia, celebrating 30 years of Ash with your album Teenage Wildlife Best Of compilation. I was wondering, Rick, in that 30 years, how do you feel your songwriting process has evolved?
yeah, I think it's sort of like changed quite a bit over time. I mean, I think early days we were doing the typical like underprepared, going into the studio and writing in the studio, and we very quickly learned that wasn't really the way to do it. So, but I think every record is a different process in itself. Like sometimes we'll have like everything like thoroughly prepared and demoed. Other times we'll kind of go in. We'll like not demo stuff to just kind of change it and make it a different
Mhm.
experience as well. But I think over the last sort of about I want to say about 10 years, Tim's got into this song challenge idea, which I think was introduced to him by one of the guys from the vaccines, where you just like you pick a day and you're like, right, I'm going to write 10 songs, and you try and write. Basically, you spend the entire day trying to write as many songs. You do it with a couple of other songwriters as well, like separately, and then get together later on and sort of play back what you've got. So it's like I think it's kind of a way to take the pressure off because you're not like there's been a few times where Tim's written stuff and then not played it to us because he doesn't think it's good enough. But this kind of gets you have to just play whatever you've got really. So it's like it kind of takes the overthinking out of it. And it's like once you've played it to other people, it's like you realize, it's like okay, not everything has to be great, but there's always some gems in there. And so like once he plays it to us, we just kind of sift through whatever's exciting us. And there's like just these days there's tons of material around, which is
Sure,
um,
sure.
a good problem to have.
So, as I mentioned earlier, Rick, you are touring Australia at the moment. You're playing dates in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, and the Rosemount Hotel in Perth on the 28th of March. Tickets available through the OzTix website. And I wanted to ask you, Rick, like when you're on tour, what does a typical sort of day look like for you when you're in Australia? Do you get out and see the sights much?
I think we've toured Australia to some degree on every record, so we absolutely love it there. But yeah, I mean, Australia is always a kind of different beast because it's such a distance to come. The jet lag's intense, and then you're like it's one of the few places in the world where well, for us, a band of our size, we're flying between every show as well. So
Sure. Yeah.
um, it kind of depends on schedule as well. But I think looking at the schedule this time, there's a few days off where we'll get to kind of hang out and see the sights. And when we're there, I obviously love to get out if time permits. But the show's also the main focus of why we're there as well. So generally on
Sure.
show days, I'm like I want to be like first down at the gig. I kind of like setting up my own drum kit, making sure everything's right for the show. So yeah, but
Cool. Cool. Yeah.
hopefully we'll get to see a bit of it. And previous times as well, we've spent quite a bit of time in Australia. I think it was back in '99 we did the Big Day Out. It used to be known as the Big Day Off as well, and yeah, for very good reason. So we got to spend I think it was like 3 weeks in Australia with that, and then I think it was on the Free All Angels tour. We got to Australia not long after 9/11, and we were
Okay.
due to do festival in Brisbane, which its name escapes me now. But it was like all the American bands were basically we were like we don't want to fly, understandably. So we'd been in Japan when it happened. We come down to Australia, and the promoter was like, "Look, I'll put you up. We're going to move the festival to the following week. So are you guys cool to stay in Australia for a week?" So yeah, we got to hang out in Sydney for a whole week, and that was
Ah, cool.
that was
Cool.
yeah, a bit of a weird time, but a silver lining to get to see a
Sure.
bit of.
Yeah. What can be really frustrating, Rick, from a Perth gig goer's point of view is obviously we're so isolated from the rest of the country in terms of distance. And bands announce Australian tours, and they'll go Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, and that's it. The Perth gets missed out. Everybody loses their mind on social media. And hands up, I'm as guilty as anyone for that. It is so frustrating, especially when you've been waiting to see someone for a really long time.
We've not done Perth every time, but I think since the Big Day Out, pretty much every time we come to Australia, we'll end up in Perth. It's like, and the Rosemount is kind of like coming home in a way. We played
I
it
was going
so
to
many
ask you if you
times.
ever played there before.
Yeah, I think we must have done it. I want to say 4 or 5 times. I think the first time we did it was on the Big Day Out tour, and I think we've done it. Yeah, probably five. This will probably be the fifth time at least.
Sure,
So
sure.
yeah,
Okay, cool,
know it
cool.
well.
So your set list, Rick, I imagine is going to be full of hits as you're touring the Teenage Wildlife Greatest Hits compilation. But I noticed there was a bonus disc with a CD of live stuff and rarities. Can we expect any kind of rare stuff? Or I've noticed a bit of a trend the last few gigs I've been at. I saw Bruce Springsteen cover AC/DC and the Killers cover In Excess. Like overseas bands come to Australia and sort of really get the crowd on side by covering an Australian sort of artist. Anything you can tell us about there? You got planned for us?
Not at the moment, but it's good. Good. Thanks for mentioning that. So we'll have a bit of a think, and then maybe we can throw something in.
That would be amazing, Rick. I would love to hear you guys do some Wolf Mother or something like that. That would be incredible. So the album Teenage Wildlife out now, double album. You put it out on two variants of vinyl and two CDs. One of the CDs has got, as I mentioned just now, a bonus CD of live stuff and rarities. I love the cover, Rick, on the lenticular releases. It's like if you don't know what a lenticular album cover is, it's like a little sort of hologram, and it's a band photo, and then from maybe I would guess at mid to late nineties, and then you tilt it very slightly to get the other picture, and then they've recreated the same photo, but well, I'd say the photo is maybe a couple of years old, and you're all looking quite good still. If you don't mind me saying, you've done well in the last 30 years. As a vinyl collector, things like that really do float my boat. But I wanted to ask you, Rick, just on the physical formats, like what are your thoughts on the physical format, but in particular vinyl versus the streaming services like YouTube and Spotify?
Yeah, I mean it's so great to see vinyl come back. I remember like I think it was back in sort of like mid 2000s when we were releasing our last record on Warner's, and there was a conversation had. They're like, right, we're going to put it out in CD, but we're not going to put it out in vinyl. And we were like, okay, that's fine. We'll put it out in vinyl ourselves then. And they very quickly changed their mind. So it's like, it's formats are great. Whatever you want to listen to it on. But like for us, we grew up with vinyl, and it's like records don't look any better than they do on vinyl. It's like CD. Okay, you got the artwork in a tiny
Sure.
a
Yeah.
few inches, but the big 12-inch cover, just everything looks better. It's the analog sound of it is great. So it's great to see that that's made such a resurgence. But at the same time, with the streaming services, yeah, it's handy. It's like, especially for it's like we're old enough to remember touring the world with a Discman and having like a wallet full of CDs and having to very very carefully choose what you're going to bring. It's like I'm going on tour for like 2 months or whatever. It's like this is all I'm going to listen to, so it's got to be good.
Mm.
Whereas these days you've got a phone in your pocket with access to anything, which is great. But I think the downsides of it are pretty well documented. But it's just I'm sure there is a way out there to make streaming work for bands as well, but there needs to be a will to make it work for bands as well, rather than vested interest sort of sitting back and letting the cash come to them.
One thing I will say, Rick, especially for Spotify, like for example, if I'm listening to Ash Radio on Spotify, I've come across so many new bands and artists, suggested by Spotify, and I've bought so many more records and CDs just based on them cropping up on things like that on Spotify. So I do see that good side of it, but I can understand from a musician's point of view, you're not getting that much out of it at all.
That's the thing. We're not against the technology as such. It's just a different way to listen to it. None's really better than the others. It's like I use streaming services to listen to music when I'm out and about, but it has to work for the musicians. Otherwise, it's going to kill off generations. I mean, it's probably already happening. Bands out there that can't well, there's even bands who are like getting lots of radio play and touring the world. It's like they have to go back home and work another job to make it work for them. So,
Sure.
and that, there's got to be a way out there of making these bands be like full-time viable
Mhm.
entities,
Sure, sure,
because it's like the older generations, they're not going to be around forever, and there needs to be something to replace it. Otherwise, that's going to have a impact on the live thing as well. So yeah, there's there's ways to make it work, but they just haven't been implemented yet.
yeah, exactly right. So the new album, Rick. it does contain one new track, Darkest Hour of the Night. Tell us a little bit about that track and where you are in general with new material. And can we expect an album of new stuff anytime soon?
Yeah, this is like it's a bit of a, I don't know how to describe it. It's a bit of an anthem, this one. But it was like, yeah, I mean, when we were um when the record company approached us about putting out the Teenage Wildlife album, we were actually in the throes of working on a new record, and we were pretty close to finishing it. And then they were like, well, yeah, we can put this out, and that'll help set up the next record. Like, okay, let's do the best of first, and put Darkest Hour of the Night on it. With we'd probably about 12 tracks ready to go at that point. So it's yeah, it's cool having something new on there as well. It's like we love playing. I think it was a bit of a radio hit in Ireland as well when it came out, which is cool.
Okay.
So I'm guessing we'll probably be playing it on the tour. But yeah, that leads me on to where Ash are with new material. We've actually got, at this point, we've got about 2 albums worth of material, like almost
Fantastic.
ready to go. But it was just like with the best of coming out, and then COVID happening, and then there's a lot of like sort of like personal change for the band. It was like Tim moved back from New York to the UK with his studio to pack up, and then he's had a kid as well. So there's been a lot of things that have been holding up the releases. But like once we get this tour finished, we're going to do what we've kind of like promised ourselves we would do when we went back to albums, and that's to get albums out on a more kind of regular basis. Maybe try and take a page out of King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizards.
We've got a new one every week, then, fellas.
Maybe not to that extent, but definitely trying to get an album out like every year.
They are unbelievable, Rick. And it's not just the regular releases either that seem to come out every single week. They put about like a dozen different variants of vinyl out all at once of the same record. And if you're a collector of their stuff, it must just drive you absolutely mental. I was researching, Rick, and I was looking through your Instagram feed, and I came across your side project, Burned as Witches. I loved it. It's big Black Sabbath vibe for me, and yeah, just wondering, sort of, if you can tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, that's sort of like with a lot of changes, and with like COVID happening as well. But mainly, it was actually down to our agent who passed away in 2001. I think when we were touring the best of in the UK, it was like the kind of big London show, the end of the tour, and it was kind of we 2 years of looking forward to this, and he passed away the night before that, and he was a very like close friend. We were his first band to break, and he went on to be agent for like Eminem, Coldplay, just like pretty much any band you can name.
Mhm.
He was instrumental in their career. So I think it was kind of my way of like dealing with that, because he was a big metal guy when he was younger. He was a drummer in a band as well, so we really bonded over that. And just with having a lot of time at home, and just like kind of started like after probably part of the grieving process, I guess, started writing stuff, and then I went in the back burner for a while, and then I think just last year, sort of, I was working with another mate who was doing a project, and it kind of inspired me just to like revisit it, and yeah, kind of pushed an album's worth of material over a line, which I've demoed very badly in my in the spare room in my house. So yeah, I mean the stuff, I just like, I came up with a name, and it was just like, I can't believe no one's got this name. So
Yeah,
I wanted to just get stuff out just to lay claim to the name before anyone else took it.
sure,
So
sure.
yeah, but yeah, maybe hopefully at some point this year get into the studio and get it recorded properly and see what happens with it. But yeah, it's not very Ash. It's more kind of like Sabbathy. That's the main influence on it. I mean, Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, Queens of the Stone Age, um, would be the ballpark for it. And it's like, whereas Ash songs are very sort of personal. This is more where it's like sort of like dealing with like politics, addiction, and death.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I absolutely loved it, Rick, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to that record coming out. Just before I let you go, Rick, I've got a few very quick fire questions. First of all, do you know what a shoey is, and would you be prepared to do one?
Shoey.
Yeah.
That sounds very Australian. And no, I don't know what a shoey is.
Okay, Rick, let me explain. So, a shoey is when you take off usually your own shoe and you fill it with beer or wine or champagne and you just chug it. There's been a little bit of a trend lately. Harry Styles did a shoey on stage the other night, and Post Malone did a shoey a couple of weeks ago from someone in the crowd's shoe, which was disgusting. But I guarantee you, Tim will get the shoey request. You'll probably be all right behind the drum kit, probably be safe, but Tim for sure will get it. So just giving you the heads up, mate. Um,
Good to be forewarned. I mean,
yeah, definitely, mate. Yeah, yeah.
I actually quit drinking in 2020, so I'm almost 3 years sober now. So I'll
Good on you, mate. Yeah.
I mean, I'll happily do, well, maybe not happily is the right word, but I could do an alcohol-free shoey, but I don't think
Ginger
I'd
ale.
probably.
No one will know, mate.
Yeah.
If you could drum on any track, Rick, which track would it be?
That's a good question. Well, I think because we haven't done a gig this year, my sort of my preparation for what I've been for the upcoming tour is actually over the last couple of weeks I've been attempting to drum to all of Rain and Blood by Slayer,
Yeah.
left-handed as well for some reason. I was trying to build up strength on my weaker side. So yeah, I might be. I reckon may I might get one of them by the time the tour starts. So yeah, but yeah,
Slayer,
yeah,
Rain and Blood.
it might also take about another year to get there. But yeah.
If you were making me a mixtape, Rick, what would be your track one, side one? What's the song that's gonna draw me in to your compilation and make me want to listen to the rest of it?
Um, I would maybe go for Warhorse by Benefits. Band.
Let me write that down.
I don't know if you. Yeah, I don't know if they've sort of made any waves in Australia yet, but they're a band from the north of England. It's very much a noise fest. I mean, I think that's probably one of their more kind of hooky ones, but
Yeah.
a lot of it's very much sort of blast beats and like atonal noise, and also very political. In fact, I'm going to be drumming for them in April after the Australian tour. I think their drummer
Nice.
can't make a few shows, so I'm standing in for them. But yeah, they sent me the album, which is yet to be released, and it's amazing. It's like it's very much moments of light and shade, and it's very much like lots of aggression on it, but kind of like very very touching moments as well. It's a
Yeah.
kind of really blew me away. So
Thanks for that, Rick. I will be sure to check them out. Okay, next quick fire question. Who is your favourite Australian band or artist, Rick?
I mean, I know it's a hell of a cliche, but I just absolutely love AC/DC. Like the Bon Scott era is just like some of the greatest stuff, and it's just kind of untouchable. I mean, he was a man of he's an amazing singer, just like so much charisma and kind of mystery, and it was like just a complete one off, and yeah, absolutely love it.
That will certainly win you over a few fans in Perth, Rick, because Bon Scott is like Jesus in Perth. Honestly, he was from Fremantle, obviously, so yeah, he's massively popular here. My 10-year-old son absolutely loves AC/DC. And let me tell you this story real quick. So last night I was getting ready for the show and I was getting the tracks together, and just having a listen. And I was playing Lose Control, and he was supposed to be in bed, and I noticed his little head pop round the door from the office, and I said, "Yeah, you all right, mate?" He said, "Oh, I really like this, Dad." I said, "You're supposed to be in bed, mate." He went, "Yeah, I know." He said, "This makes me feel like the first time I won a battle royale in Fortnite."
Amazing legend.
Yes. No, he is. Yeah, he's a right little legend. I've got a little metalhead in the making there for sure. Okay, one last question for you, Rick, and then I will let you go. This is a kind of a situational sort of dilemma I found myself in many, many years ago. Festival clashes, festival lineups. When you get to the festival, you get your lineup out and you get the stage times and you work out who you're gonna see, who you're gonna miss, what you got to sacrifice, all those kinds of things. You would have played V Festival, I imagine, with Ash a few times, and V98. The headline clash was on the main stage. The Verve, 1998 Verve, who were going through a very acrimonious and bitter breakup. I think they had one more gig, Slane Castle, and it was quite well known in the music press and wherever that they were splitting up after that gig, and that was it. Versus in the dance tent, headlining at the actual same time, James Brown. Where do you go, Rick?
That's that's a hell of a
Yeah,
dilemma. I mean, it's like at James Brown's age as well. I mean, you might be thinking that might be the last chance you got to see him as well.
yeah.
So I don't know. I'm going to say James Brown.
So what actually happened on the day, Rick, was I was with my best friend and I went the Verve. He went James Brown. We both maintain it was one of the best gigs of our lives. Unfortunately, I think around 2 years later, James Brown passed away, and then a couple of years after that, the Verve got back together for the fourth album. So I was absolutely spewing over that, but still a fantastic gig. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Rick. I really, really appreciate your time, mate. Good luck with the tour and the record. Keep up the Burn with Witches side project, and I can't wait for some new Ash material, mate. Thanks very much again, Rick.
All right, nice one, mate.
What an absolute legend, Rick McMurray from Ash. Hope you enjoyed that chat. Next week on the podcast, I'll be talking to Jonathan from the Perth band Blackstone Brewers about their new EP and upcoming gigs. Like I said at the top of the pod, if you want to follow me, click the follow button at the top of the page, or you can catch me on Instagram at the Mixtape Perth. Thanks very much. Until next time.